to remember how bold he was. We're afraid.
All right. Well, we've got a great audience tonight. Hopefully we'll have a good show for y'all. Anyway, no, we're very, very happy to have y'all, and it's a wonderful occasion. But with that, I will call the March 4th City Council meeting of the City of Belair to order. And I notice that all council members are present. And with that, as we often do, and we begin our meetings with an inspirational reading and our pledges to the flags. And this meeting's honor goes to Council Member Jackie Georgiou. So, Jackie, it's your floor.
I wasn't expecting to have this many people here. The Greeks will say, both anger and love will make you bold. But where the boldness of anger is foolhardy and rash, the boldness of love is courageous. I recently read an article on Martin Luther King. It stated, because King was so peaceful, we often remember him as peaceful, and we forget to remember how bold he was. King was a pastor, so he believed in moral uplift, but he knew that you could not legislate morality. You can only legislate behavior, which he still called for the legislation of behavior. But he knew to change hearts, he had to call out the immorality of the lukewarm, the people who knew better but were afraid. The Greeks are saying the same thing. They're saying indifference comes with a heavy cost, because indifference today becomes hostility tomorrow. What does that mean? It means indifference is not nothing. It's a choice to do nothing, and it has an outcome. Now, courage also has an outcome. Courage gives hope to the world. I'm going to tell y'all a couple of stories. It's about the Greeks. No surprise to anyone. When the Nazis in World War II came to the Greeks' borders, they knocked on the prime minister's door and they said, we're going to pass. And the prime minister said one word to them. He said, ohi. The word ohi means no, and he shut the door. Now, he knew that he had just signed up for the war of his life, and indeed he had that war. But every morning, the world had woken up until that point, and read about another European country that had fallen to the Axis powers. That morning, they woke up and they read about a small country of Greece that was going to fight the Nazis. And a tiny drop of hope fell into the hearts of man. And the next morning, they woke up to hear that the Greeks had held the Nazis, and a tiny drop of hope fell into the hearts of man. Well, we know how the story ends. The Nazis did indeed cross through Greece, and they killed a bunch of Greeks along the way. And however, the Greeks fought so long and hard, they gave the Allied powers the time to get to Russia to maneuver, and the Nazis were forced to fight the Allied powers in the dead of winter in Russia, where they were defeated. Now, while this was going on, they were also crossing across the islands of Greece. They came to a small island called Zakynthos. There were 275 Jewish residents on the island of Zakynthos. It's one of the only places where not one Jewish resident was deported. Why? Because when the Nazis asked the mayor and the bishop of this town to give a list of the names of the Jewish residents and their property, they had 24 hours. They came back in 24 hours, and indeed they were handed a list. And on that list, there were two names, the mayor and the bishop. So there was a book written about it. It's called Something Beautiful Happened. The courage of these two men dropped a tiny drop of hope into the hearts of man. At the same time, the Archbishop of Greece was the only religious leader at the time speaking out against the Holocaust. He, of course, received a letter that said, you better stop what you're doing or we're going to execute you by Nazi firing squad. He responded with one line. He said, according to the traditions of the Greek Orthodox Church, our prelates are hanged and not shot. Please respect our traditions, ! They were so taken aback by his courage that they never made good on their threat. And in fact, the bishop was featured on the cover of Time magazine for his courage. So here we are, a tiny city with an unimportant council, constantly compared to West U. We're not going to change the world. Or could we? I mean, we have to remember that Greece was a very small country. It's not a military power. Zakynthos is a very small island, unimportant up until that point. And Martin Luther King was a single black man who didn't even have voting rights at the time. How could these people change the world? Because courage for the right reasons changes the world, even at the smallest of levels. So I challenge this little city of Belair. to be bold, courageous, and strong, not to be lukewarm, but to take bold steps for this city, for this generation, and the next generation, and for all the right reasons. And a tiny drop of hope will fall into the hearts of man. And maybe on a very small level, we will change the world. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you still have to do the pledges of the flag, though. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to thee, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Okay. With that, I think we have a special recognition, Sharon, correct?
We do.
We have an incredibly